Robin is not here tonight. Mr. Lang will be doing Robin's duties. Roll call, please.
Member Allen?
Yes.
Member Bruns?
Yes.
Member Long?
Yes.
Member Morris? Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Sageman?
Yes.
First order of business will be Mr. Pete Vasili and Melissa Bean, 2015-2016 budget.
So, in your package, you're going to have the general fund budget summary, which is on PowerPoint. Can you hear me? Hello? Okay. 2015 budget summary for general fund. Should have in your packets, all the board members. This is done in collaboration with our superintendent, financial consultant, all the administrators. I'll just take you through the columns. Far left is 2013-14 actual, which is what our audited numbers were. Then we have our 2014-15 amended, which is what Melissa has worked on. And 2015-16 proposed. So the board will be voting on columns 2 and 3, the amended and proposed. The change column is for informational purposes only. It's the change between the proposed and amended. And then I also have the debt amount that was approved in January to compare where we are for 2015-16 compared to debt, and the difference is for information only. As you see, our total general fund revenues proposed 15-16 is a 16,337,000, which is, there's my pointer. It's slightly larger than our debt revenue of 400 by about 418,000. Basically, we had an increase in our foundation allowance of 140 per pupil. We had a Webster's 147 C gross of 95 per pupil, and at-risk funding of $64 per pupil more. I'm going to scroll down a little bit here to get to the expense side, so you can see that. Total proposed general fund expenditures for 15-16 is $15.239 million. That's pretty much in line with what we were in 14-15. There's a very slight difference of 61,000. It's slightly more than we have in our debt, but that's because of the Section 147C return gross up, which hits both the revenues and expenses, and at-risk funding, which also hits both the revenues and expenses. The net effect is that we are ahead of pace, and when we go down a little further, we see our fund balance here. The fund balance that was per the debt, $1,040,000 compared to the $1,098,000 which is budgeted for. So we're budgeting for a $58,000 increase over what's in the debt. So that's good news. For 14-15, Melissa had budgeted a $1.262 million net income for the year, which is also ahead of our debt. So all in all, I think it looks like things are trending in the right direction. Obviously, these are estimates. Audit's going to be done in October, so we'll have final 14-15 figures then. Just items of note here in terms of large variances. You see the 449 there for federal. We are expecting a decrease in our allocation from the federal government, and also we had a carryover last year, which we will not have this year. Otherwise, there's nothing major that stands out. If you look on the expense side under the general administration, that is decreasing 205 from 14-15. That's where our legal expense was. So we're budgeting 100,000 less in legal expense for 15-16. So hopefully that'll stay the course. But overall, looks pretty stable in terms of comparison to prior year and debt. So, if anyone has any questions?
What is the reason for the decrease in the federal allocation?
The decrease? Well, the federal government's giving out less overall, and in 14-15 we had a big carryover from the prior year. We're not planning on any carryover.
We had 185,000 carryover for Title I.
Mr. Vasili, you share with us 14-15 and 15-16?
$20,000, and that's tied into reductions in Title I and Title II. Again, that's more than in and out when you take any need spend, so that's the reason for that decrease. But overall, and then I'll get to the very bottom here in terms of where we are with general fund deficit. As you see, on June 30th, 2014, we had a $2.9 million deficit, which was a 20% fund deficit, very significant. Then we're projecting for 14-15, or June 30th of 2015, to be a 1.6 million deficit. That's down to 10%. And again, if our projections are correct, if we hold our budget, we'll be down to 562 on June 30th of 2016, so a 3% fund deficit. So that's a significant improvement there. Just going down below here, this is the food service fund. Nothing major here. Continues to be self-sustaining and profitable. We're targeting for about a $9,000 net income for 14-15. 15-16, about the same. The only major variance we have here is supplies from 15-16 versus 14-15. It's an increase we're budgeting for, and apparently, according to Charles, the Board of Food Service, there is going to be a sharp cost increase for chicken, meat, and eggs due to some avian bird flu virus.
And I think one of the other things is that we're not getting a lot of commodities anymore. And we were getting them over the years, we don't used to get a lot of commodities. The government is not sending much commodities according to food service anymore.
There's also a revenue breakdown for the general fund. It's entitled 2015-16 projected general fund revenues. I don't have it in PowerPoint, but this breaks down within the local revenues, the state revenues, and so forth. The key thing, just the major items, local property taxes. I had budgeted for $1.3 million. That's the 2015 non-homestead taxable valuation of $75 million times your 18 mills to come up with that amount. Not much different from last year. If you look at the state revenues, our foundation, general ed, discretionary are going up. Again, that's because of $140 per pupil increase. Foundation special ed is budgeted to go up. That's based on the prior year special ed cost times 28.6% reimbursement rate. At risk is also scheduled to go up about $64 per pupil, so you see there's an increase there. Great Start Readiness down 73. Again, there's a big carryover from prior that we don't expect for next year. MEPSR's rate stabilization rate, that's the section 147C in and out, that's increased because of the increased per pupil. And the one key thing is that we're losing best practices. That was eliminated this year, so that's a $50 per pupil elimination. So we take the 140 foundation allowance increase less the 50 best practice loss, it's a net 90 increase in the general fund. Page 2 of that same report, or same graphic, again, it shows your federal revenues, your Title I, Title II, Medicaid. And you see there, Title I is budget to be down about $370,000, as we explained. Half of it is the carryover we're not having, and the fact the federal government is paying out less in terms of their grants. Overall, the change is not significant. It's about a 1.4% decrease of $225,000 compared to last year. So if you have more questions, I'm going to go to the PowerPoint next. So go ahead.
You're going to talk about projections, student account projections.
I'm going to do that right now. So if you bear with me, I tried to do this with our tech guy earlier. It didn't work great, but let's see if it'll work out. So just in terms of where we are, I'm just going to go through some budget assumptions or reviewing the general fund details, other funds, and in terms of what next is after the meeting. So again, the budget was prepared in collaboration with the superintendent, financial consultant, and administrators. In terms of our assumptions, what we're going to go through, as you mentioned, your student count, foundation grant, other state funding. We are announcing we're levying the 18 mil non-homestead, so that'll satisfy the truth in budgeting requirement that we have disclosed what we're planning to levy for the year. Health insurance, which went up 3 to 4% based on various employee groups. Retirement rate stayed the same in terms of what we pay. In terms of what the overall rate is, it went up 2.9%, but that's all covered by the state, by the Section 147C So our student count, you can see that, 2014-15, our count was 16, I'll see if I can. No, it doesn't. It's just not, apologize for for 14-15, our student count was 1660. That was 90% of our fall count was 1669. 10% of our spring count of 1577. One change, the state, as they like to micromanage, has gone back to the old formula. It used to be current year fall, next year spring. Now it's going to be current year fall, prior year spring. So for 15-16, we're stuck with 10% of 1577. There was a decrease, as you noticed, in 92 between fall and spring, and according to my discussions with the superintendent, we had some schedule changes that resulted in many students being half-time, so we couldn't claim the FTEs. However, that situation will hopefully be rectified next year so we can get a better count. Hopefully we'll be at 1670 per the depth that Melissa presented back in January. She had 1674, so I'm being somewhat concerned because of the formula change. But 1670 is what we thought was a reasonable estimate. Next slide. Okay. In terms of our foundation grant and other state funding, so again, as we mentioned, our foundation allowance is increasing from 7251 to 7391. That's a 140 per student increase. Other state funding changes the at-risk of 64. However, that's targeted for specific types of students and programs, not a general fund increase. The MEPSR's actuarial increase of 147C, that's a gross of, again, that hits both revenues and expenses, have no effect on general fund. And our best practices of $50 per student was eliminated. And in terms of our, again, we're levying the 18 mills on homestead. Health insurance increased between various groups between 3 and 3.9. That's actually quite good compared to other districts. It increases up to 10%. Retirement rate in terms of what the district pays stayed exactly the same at 25.78. The total rate increased 2.9%, but it does affect us. It's simply we get that money from the state and we pay in the pension fund. In terms of employees and wages, we had basically a net of 7 new teachers, all necessities versus discretionary. I'll explain here. 2 special education funded teachers that we're adding were due to the fact that we had to bring 2 programs in-house that used to be at the ISD. So the EI room for emotionally impaired kids and the early childhood autism room, we're both having to do those in-house. We had to add 2 new teachers and a teacher aide for that. But we are saving some money in terms of we're not paying out to the ISD for that. We're also added 3.5 new at-risk funded teachers for world language, drama, and PE health, which are more required classes for college that we had to add. And the key thing is the 1.5 for general fund. Again, it was chemistry, computer science, so those were necessities that we had to add. But in terms of what net effect in general fund, it's pretty much just coming with 1.5 teachers, and we had these for various reasons. Per contract with the VEA, they're scheduled to have a 0.5% increase, wage increase over last year, and that's scheduled to be a 0.5% for the next couple of years. It equates to about a $35,000 increase in total compensation factoring the FICA and MEPSR's rates. Our employee total, after we have those changes, is up to about 171. That is about 8 more than was presented back in January with Melissa's presentation. Again, 7 of those 8 are teachers. The other one is a teacher aide for the EI room. Everything else should be pretty much stable. And then this is just more summary breakdown of where we're in terms of general fund revenues. Not much different than what I said before. Minimal change of 1.36% overall. Decrease due mainly to the Title I allocation reductions. This graph just shows how overly dependent we are on state revenue, as most districts are in the state. It really makes it difficult, especially for deficit districts. But that's been the case since proposal A of 1994. And now we're going over to general fund expenses, just simply a breakdown. Basic programs, which is our direct classroom expenses, ADs, which is special ed, Title I, support services, more non-structural, custodians, transportation. Nothing major here either, except for the fact there's a slight shift into basic programs from support services, so that's a good shift. We're spending more money in the classroom and less outside the classroom. And then this simply is general fund expenses, just broken out by objects, salaries, benefits, purchase services, and so forth. The one item, benefits increasing 4.9%, basically a 3% healthcare increases, and a section 147 retirement growth subs. Purchase services, we're hoping to get that lower, reduce long-term sub costs. There's capital outlay, new bus purchases we're expecting to have in the next year. And we do see a decrease in transfers. Those are payments made to ISDs, and that's because we're bringing the EI room and the autism room in-house to serve versus the ISD. This is simply a breakdown of general fund balance. As you see here, as I mentioned, the percentages, we're going from 19.44 to 10.86 to 3.69. So if we can stay the course in this, we'll make significant progress in terms of our financial situation. Now, briefly for debt retirement, we're going to levy the 5.02 mils again in 2015 as we had in 2014. So we don't have to increase as many districts do. We did a calculation through a bond council, Bond Associates, and we determined that we're 5.02. We may have an increase in 2016, but we won't know yet. Our debt mills only run until 2016, so we'll have to make a decision next year whether to reauthorize it or maybe go to the sinking fund or whatever else. So that's something we can discuss at Finance Committee. General fund transfer debt fund, that's for the payment of 2009 facility bond, which is the general fund's responsibility. There's no debt millage allocated for that. Food service fund, really again, no significant change. We had $90,000 net income budgeted. Still reflects the partnership that we have going on between Chartwell's and District, which has gone on very well. There's been no drain in the general fund, and it's done a very good job of keeping itself solid. In terms of what's next, as we had an earlier meeting, we have a new state aid note that we are reissuing tomorrow, which is $500,000 less than prior, which has been used, although unfortunately a slightly higher interest rate we had to pay. That was, some was unavoidable. We only had one bid for that note. So we might want to consider the Michigan School Bond Loan Fund next year, depending on what rates are. We can save a little bit there. In terms of our board meeting, so at this meeting, what we're asking is approval of the amended 2014-15 General Fund and Food Service Fund, along with approval of the proposed 15-16 General Fund and Food Service Fund. Our audit scheduled for late August, early September, so Yo and Yo should be doing their presentation at some point in October. And after we get the pupil count in the fall, the plan should be to amend the budget based on where we're at with that one. That's all I have.
Wanted to let the board also know that practices, we did receive that money from the state, so that made us look a little better in terms of what was projected for our fund balance for this year to the tune of $82,000. So we did get the best practices money that we submitted.
Any questions from the board? Need a motion to approve the 2015-2016 budget.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Roll call, please.
Member Long?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Saban?
Yes.
Member Allen?
Yes.
Member Lang? Yes. Member Bruns?
Yes. Next order of business, we need a motion to approve 2014-2015 amended budget.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Roll call, Mr. Lang.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Saban?
Yes.
Member Allen?
Yes.
Member Lang? Yes. Member Long?
Yes.
Member Bruns?
Yes. Next order of business, Brunkow Building Safety from the ISD. You're up. Good evening.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your board member to allow me to address you as the superintendent of Saginaw Intermediate School District. I'm just finishing my first year, so I've been learning a lot and working hard to serve our local districts. The topic to discuss this evening is the Brunkow building, which Bridgeport Spalding Schools received from the Buena Vista School District that's been dissolved. The Head Start building, Brunkow, is a great location serving 158 children. In fact, this year, Head Start helped assisted 29 Bridgeport Spalding children move from Head Start into Bridgeport Spalding, registering for kindergarten. Those 29 children represent about $214,000 if we use next year's state aid per student amount. And it's in a well-served area of Bridgeport Spalding schools. Brunkow Elementary receives volunteer services from next year. Next year, volunteers in school buildings within Buena Vista Township boundaries, and that's a great asset for the Brunkow building. There are three options your board has to consider. Of course, we want to keep Head Start at Brunkow building, and our Head Start proposal is in the renewal process, and we expect to receive the letter approving that in the next month or so for the next 5 years. There's three options. One, Bridgeport Spalding could retain the Brunkow building and continue charging Saginaw Intermediate School Head Start rental fees, lease agreement at a cost of, I believe you receive $21,000 per year in revenues from the lease agreement. Is that correct? Okay. And that way Head Start could remain in that building. Two, you could transfer the ownership of the Brunkow building to Saginaw Intermediate School District. I took a look at and consulted with Wayne Risa because Wayne Risa oversaw the dissolution of Inkster schools. Inkster had 5 buildings that were disseminated during their dissolution. 4 of those buildings are being demolished. One of the buildings was deeded to Wayne Risa to house special education services. So the board could consider deeding the Brunkow building to Saginaw Intermediate School District Head Start. And of course, we'd have to go through the legal process for all of that. And along with deeding that, there comes the responsibility then to Saginaw ISD and Saginaw Head Start for the roof and the boiler and the physical condition of the building. We don't see immediate repairs, but they're within the next few years. Roof repairs of about $100,000 and boiler repairs of about $150,000 are probably warranted in that building during the next 5 years. The third option is Bridgeport Spalding Board of Education could decide to demolish the building using the funds provided by the state. Now, if the building's demolished and Head Start can no longer be offered in that area, those children will have to be disseminated around the county. Most likely, they will be going to, we have open space at Jerome Building. Saginaw City is opening Head Start at the Henry Dorr Building in Buena Vista Township. And what I could foresee happening if there's no Head Start location at Brunkow is that possibly Bridgeport Spalding future students could be targeted to enroll in another school district wherever they're attending Head Start at. So that's one thing to consider as well. I can't predict that, but that is a possibility. Do you have any questions?
Yeah. When is the state going to decide? There's talk about them not giving you the money to demolish the buildings now.
Last week, during the House Committee meeting on the different legislation SB 103, SB 173, Senator Warnes had a bill, and then Representative Kelly amended the bill. The House committee sent it back out saying it needed more work. So they're still deciding at the state level by when those funds will be available. Right now, as it stands, they're available through September 30th. That's how it currently stands unless they amend that date.
Another question, do we have a fourth option? Because you mentioned three, with the fourth, I think, would be making an offer to purchase the property.
At this
In our
time,
committee, that's what we discussed.
at this time, Saginaw Intermediate School District is looking very financially like most of our locals. We would be willing to talk with you about that, but I would like to say publicly it would be nowhere near the offers that you're hearing about Saginaw City receiving from different entities. We're trying hard to keep our fund balance just ahead of that early warning system. The early warning system that was passed last week has a fund balance of 5% to stay out of that mandatory reporting requirement. It was at 7%. Our general fund balance is sitting at about 10%, 9% right now. Our special ed fund balance is sitting at 0.5%. If we would have a boiler or a roof problem at Millet Learning Center or Transition Learning Center, our general fund would have to correct those physical needs at Millet Learning Center or Transition Learning Center, because as an ISD, we cannot run a countywide sinking fund to make building improvements. So financially, it wouldn't be that large of an offer, but we're willing to meet with your committee.
How quickly?
However schedules permit. Okay. I look forward to that. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Citizen participation. Connie Portis Brown.
I thank you for your kind words of appreciation you have given the teachers for their hard work and dedication that brought us through the past year. Teachers, like everyone, need to hear that they are appreciated
Good evening. For the past 10 months, I've brought questions and concerns to this podium and individual board members in hopes for answers and resolutions. On February 9th, I started to request answers on the legality of the separation agreement with Deputy McDonald. I told the board then that I'm a fact finder, and I explained that I wanted answers for the unauthorized and misspending of the funds in our district. I have since continued to compile the facts and ask the questions at the podium, and have yet to have responses or actions from the board. Through my fact-finding and FOIA requests, I have uncovered many of my own answers. Through all of this, I have explained to the board that I will do my job as a taxpayer and a citizen of this school district to hold the board and board members accountable to do the jobs they accepted when they took oath. I am sure by now you have all received the notice that I have retained legal counsel, and I hope you have taken the time to read the letter that was delivered to each and every one of you this morning. Please understand that this legal action is not an attempt for personal gain. It is simply a demand that our district recover the monies that were misrepresented or unlawful expenditures of public funds by a board member. I hope this will open an eye. I hope this will be an eye-opener for all board members that transparency is the key facet of public officials, and that the laws and policies of this district must be followed and enforced. Again, I want to stress that any monies recovered from this action will be returned to the district, and that there will be no personal financial gain from this legal action. In closing, I again want to remind everyone of your duties that you accepted when you took oath. It is as much your duty to hold each other board members accountable for their actions as it is the community members to hold this entire board accountable for the actions and the success of our children.
Next order of business, College and Career Scholarship Update, Mr. Barlow. Next order of business, Personnel Report. Ms. Sullivan.
Yes, thank you. You have the amended personnel report before you, and we are recommending the superintendent and administrative staff are recommending the following new hires, and I believe some of them may be here this evening. Shari Brewer, senior, for high school varsity girls basketball coach, and if, I think this is
supported. Discussion? No discussion? Roll call vote, Mr. Lane?
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Member Saban?
Yes.
Member Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Lang, yes. Mr. Long?
Yes.
Member Bruns?
Yes. Next order of business, board members, I asked this to be put on the agenda. We have to do our annual evaluation required by law of the superintendent. There are several tools that can be used. There are several different evaluations that can be used. I'll put it out there, leave it up to the board, how you want to handle the evaluation of Ms. Selby. I know she hasn't been there for a year, but we are still required to do this. And Carol, we had a little bit of a discussion about it. You were going to try to come up with something that the board could use for an evaluation.
I do have, and I don't have it with me, another tool that was given to me by Kathy Stewart, as a matter of fact. It's a similar type tool. It's not quite as involved, but it's on the same format. Same type of rubric, just not quite as involved. And I can get that to you.
Okay, because when Carol gets that out to me, I will see that it's forwarded to the majority, or see the rest of the board members, and we will work on that. Mr. Lang, do you have a question?
No, I just think it's important based on our agreement with Ms. Selby that she's in agreement with whatever tool we use. Right? That the word and she are in alignment with this.
Yeah, I did inform Ms. Selby that we would be working together on that, me and her, and her input will be well taken. Okay. Next order of business, authorized check signers. Mr. Basile.
Yes, this is simply to update the check signing from the previous superintendent and previous business manager to myself and Ms. Selby for First Merit and Chase and PNC. So this is the formality.
Okay. Board member, do you have any questions for Pete? Recommended action is move to authorize Ms. Selby, Mr. Basile as the authorized check signers. We need a motion.
So moved.
For support? Support. Moved by Mr. Nelson, supported by Mr. Long. Discussion? No discussion, roll call vote, please.
Member Saban?
Yes.
Member Allen?
Yes.
Member Lang, yes. Member Long?
Yes.
Member Nelson?
Yes.
Member Bruns?
Yes. Next order of business, board and superintendent comments. Mr. Lang?
I am good, thank you.
Mr. Nelson?
Nothing to see.
Reverend?
I appreciate the progress that I'm seeing. Thank you again, teachers and community, for your willingness to really be involved.
Mr. Long?
I agree kind of from one of the speakers that it is wise whenever you can to promote from within your own ranks. However, sometimes you just simply can't do that. I was not on any interview committee or anything such as that. I do understand what was said. In my own business, I always agree it's wise to promote from within. It fosters better morale. That's all I've got to say on that.
Ms. Saban?
Yes, I would like to commend the high school principals and the teachers that served on the interview committees last week. They come up with some really good questions, and one of my concerns is that we lose good people because we can't afford to pay them what they're making someplace else. I mean, we've lost good candidates as a result of it. But for those of you that don't know, we just hired
have much. Every month I sit up here and thank the teachers, thank administration. I'll do that again. Thanks the teachers, thanks administration. Doing a great job. Board members, as you are aware, we are being monitored by the state and by the ISD, reference our priority status. I have had Ms. Sageman attending the priority school meetings at my request to keep me apprised of what's going on. Ms. Sylvie, last week after the meeting, Ms. Sageman relayed to me that she's quite impressed with you, that you know your job and you're doing a great job of it, and I wanted to relay that to you. That's all I have. Ms. Sylvie.
Thank you. And I know that there are several teachers in the audience tonight, and I guess I want to ditto what some of the board members have said, that I absolutely appreciate you, and I hope that you will take time this summer in between summer school and camp convention and all the other to relax, enjoy your family, and to re-energize for next year, because I want everyone, including myself, to hit the door running in the fall. I wanted the board to know that we've been exploring doing some marketing for the district, because we absolutely cannot take anything for granted. We cannot take for granted that we will get the students that we think we're going to get. So we're exploring the marketing. Of course, keeping in mind that there was a cost, but so we're going to try to do something as prudent as possible in terms of finances. I want to let you know that we've had some summer school activities the last couple of weeks at the high school, middle school, and elementary. This week, we have camp convention going on at Athens Elementary, and if any of you get a chance to pop in camp convention, they'll be going all day till 3 o'clock. They were really worried today about the weather. So I guess this time last year, we had some terrible storms, and fast storm was predicted for this afternoon, evening too. It looks like so far we're okay, and I think the kids were able to spend all day there and get out safely, right, Jeff? With no 60-mile-an-hour winds or anything. So that was good. The camp convention will be going on all this week, ends on Friday, and it should be a fun visit if you get a chance to take a peek. And one last thing about priority. This is where the end of our third quarter, and so we'll be getting, technically it doesn't end until June 30th, which is next week. And so for our next board meeting, whenever that is, we'll have another report on the 30th. But we are forging ahead and making lots of plans for next year.
Awesome. Board members, before we adjourn, get a consensus of the building grounds, finance, handle the Brunkow school issue, get with Ms. Stewart, and is that okay with the majority of the board? We probably need to do something with this ASAP. Yeah.
Can you say a few minutes?
I adjourned.